Good afternoon. My name is Travis Williams, and I'm from True Impact Counseling Services, PLLC. We are a private practice specializing in individual and family therapy. Today, I just want to take a little bit of time to get back to doing something that I really miss, and that's doing a little bit of education in terms of counseling, concepts, approaches, interpersonal skill development. This is something that I do in my private practice work, and I get really excited about teaching concepts because, like I tell so many of my clients, I see therapy as just more than a safe place to process your emotions. I also see therapy as a place to learn new skills, to come to grips with our reality, and learn how to function in a healthy way, regardless of what circumstances that we find ourselves in. So with that said, I want to talk about something today that I hope you find interesting. I find it to be very beneficial in terms of working with clients, but that is the whole idea of selectivity. Selectivity, in terms of how I'm going to talk about it today, has to do with something called cognitive distortions. Cognitive distortions, in its simplest definition, basically means stinking thinking. Me being an old country boy, that's what I like to call it. But the truth of the matter is, it's just inaccurate thinking. So when we talk about selectivity, what that means is that there is some type of bias that is skewing our understanding in one direction. We're being very selective with our understanding. And so what I'm going to try to do today is touch on like three main areas in which we tend to be very selective. Area number one is called selective attention. Area number two is called selective memories. And then finally, area number three is selective interpretation. So let's go at them one at a time. When we talk about selective attention, what that really means is that we have this tendency through sometimes just habit, history, sometimes emotional or some type of emotional abuse, some type of trauma. But we can just be very selective on only putting our attention towards the heavy aspects of our lives. What that means is that we pay attention to those things that affirm our idea of being less than, unlovable, unworthy, all the heavy negative stuff that you don't want to put your attention towards is what we end up doing when we have selective attention. To counter that, and I'll try to touch on how we counter all these as we go through them. To counter that, you want to take off the bias in terms of only looking towards those things that are negative where we place our attention. You got to try to be more intentional on placing your attention in areas that push back on that whole notion of everything in my life is negative, or all the things in my life are heavy, or nothing ever works out for me. That could be something as simple as when you catch yourself saying something negative, push yourself to say something positive about that situation. If you are a person of faith and you find yourself saying something negative, you have to try to catch it and push back and speak about those things that God says in His Word that affirm your current position and speak highly of your ability to handle the situation you're in. That's how we push back on selective attention. So point number two, selective memory. This is also rooted a lot of times in just the experiences that we bring to our lives, history, negative interactions we might have had in the past. It can be very easy to get tied up, and twisted up in things that have happened to us that affirms a negative position in our lives. For example, I'm broke, I don't have a lot of money. Selective memory would recall every single negative move or unproductive move you made regarding your money. whether that is buying a car you couldn't afford, running up a credit card, maxing out its limit, getting a credit card in a rush in which you got the highest interest rate you could ever imagine. All those little decisions come flooding by. In relationships, selective memory may sound like, you knew this was coming. You saw this. Every little hint, clue, interaction that pointed towards this person being wrong for me, all of a sudden selective memory will say, see, you missed it. You should have remembered that. You should have done this. You should have done that. At the end of the day, selective memory often is unfair to us because we forget this other cognitive distortion called hindsight bias, where looking back in time, you can always see where you messed up. You can always see that wrong decision. You can always see that hint that really didn't look like a hint at the time, but now with the benefit of hindsight, the hint is more like a neon sign saying don't do that. Well, that particular aspect, of selective memory is what you use to push back on it. You've got to insist that you're fair to yourself. So when it comes to selective memory, what we want to do is be fair. Think about that hindsight bias that I just talked about. Also, with selective memories, you have to kind of learn to affirm who you are right now. I know this can be difficult because many of us are in a heavy place. We may feel like we're unworthy, unlovable. We may feel like we just on such a string of bad luck. Why would someone want to be with us? Or, can't, in between jobs, can't find the job I want. You think that you're unworthy. All that can come from just these selective memories that affirm that negativity, but you've got to push back on that. Be fair. Try to think about the things that went right in your life, even though things were tough. It can be very easy to get in this habit of just always feeling like all I have is bad luck. First of all, I don't believe in luck, but let's just go ahead and say we do. Nothing is 100%. You can't always be 100% on the wrong end of things. At some point, something is going right in your life, but the selectivity that we tend to participate in makes it hard to see those areas where things are going right, which is the whole reason I'm teaching about this. The final area, selective interpretation, and this is a really, really powerful piece of the information I'm sharing today. Selective interpretation says that I can get so skewed in my thinking, even ambiguous information that sometimes can be in my favor because I'm carrying all the heaviness and negativity in life, even when it's ambiguous, even if it could be right or left, iffy, questionable. When I have selective interpretation, which is going to be skewed to the negative, what I tend to do is I look at it from that negative perspective, and that causes me to cancel out even those 50-50 opportunities where I am good, I am okay, things are working out. But because I'm using selective interpretation, I'll call that luck, I'll call that chance, I'll call that people feeling sorry for myself, I'll call that anything but victory. And that's how selective interpretation can negatively influence your perspective, your moods, your confidence, and in the long run, it worsens this whole emotional heaviness that we can feel. So, what did we learn today, class? I'm hoping that you learned a little bit about something called selectivity in terms of how it impacts our emotional and mental well-being. Again, the main areas that I covered today in reverse order: selective interpretation, selective memories, and then finally selective attention. I want to apologize for being such a long time since I made a video. I plan to do a better job making more of these. My focus will be on, as much as I can, short clips to help educate and inform, and hopefully spread a little bit of impact and influence as I go about that. If you would like more intense coaching or therapy or just support in these matters, You can always reach us on our website. You can Google True Impact Counseling Services, will pop right up, or you can give us a call at 919-578-8110, and someone will be more than ready to assist you with that. God bless you. You take care. Impact and influence.